I would
Are
say
you recording this?
Yes, to YouTube. It's unlisted video. Later I cut it.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. If you don't want, it can.
I'm going to make Jaryl the host.
Okay.
It's okay,
There are-
but actually, I wanted to ask you, whoever is recording, I do have well, two parts to the presentation. One is like for the first 5 to 10 minutes, just an overview of what this whole series is about. And yeah, and then the second half we go into the quotes itself. So I wonder whether, once the first part finishes, then you can stop sharing and then start sharing again so that you have
videos.
yeah. Just want to just do it one.
Okay. Hi.
Hey, Shiva!
I haven't seen him almost the same time as you haven't.
How is Hanmei?
Who?
Hanmei.
Who?
Hanmei.
Tanmay.
Tanmay.
Tanmay, I don't know. She is at Dharwad. She's not in Chennai.
She's in Chennai.
He's teasing you.
Hey.
Wait, I think I'm going to exit the meeting, and because this is wait, is it not on? Not on. Ah, it's not on. That's the problem.
Okay, can you hear us now?
Wait.
Yes.
Yes.
Someone speak.
Okay.
Okay, good. Do. हाँ? कैमरा सीन करना इसका है वो लैपटॉप
After this, you're free, Ignish.
not really.
And when are we meeting for that?
Yeah.
On.
Here, this
No, not that. So arrow. The arrow. No. HD camera.
Aha. Wonderful. Now we can see both of your beautiful faces.
Well, I get the only mine here, but
Vignesh was just cut off from the screen.
Can see the handsome beard.
Handsome beard.
I'm Emeritus Shiva. Shiva
Ah.
and his one. Good.
By the way, I just wanted to thank you all once again for allowing me to host these sessions, these meetings together.
Oh.
Sharing it, and yeah, I really appreciate it.
We thank you for doing the class, the program. It's
Yes.
good.
let's thank him after the class.
Okay.
Next time,
I
what?
believe it's good, but let's thank him after the class.
Must sample first.
Yeah. No, I think it's really nice.
We have what, 1 hour together?
Only 1 hour. Okay.
I mean, 1 hour or 1.5?
Mindset.
Yeah, yeah, 60 to 90 minutes.
You can sit so people can see you. So yes, this is the question.
I need to have lunch.
Okay, yes.
Shouldn't we have lunch?
Yeah. Shiva, you can sit somewhere.
Sit down.
Yeah.
Only two of us are here? Three of us? Huh?
Yeah.
Okay, that's it. Only four? Who are these people? These
Ah.
people. No, neither those people.
We had a lecture here about preservation of forests.
Oh, I should have attended that.
Yes, I was thinking the same, but I was thinking about it's the preservation of art, so I didn't come because
Okay.
and then I came here at the end of the lecture, and then I
Who is the speaker?
he's already gone. He went to the train.
Oh, with the trail, okay.
Train, yes.
References.
So how have you met Tan Mei
Wait,
after
wait.
the convention?
She's such a good friend of mine. You don't want to, don't want her to come and speak with me naturally. If she hears that, she will not speak with me. And I will also resist speaking with me.
I will cut it out. Don't worry. The wisdom of sages. Wow.
I know.
Oh, we have so many. I changed my name. Thank you.
We have enough.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm thinking, should I change my name? Just young Theosophist.
But too late almond accepted.
Two things. We should close the door because people are speaking there.
Ah, yeah.
Hi.
Smita, hello.
Oh, hi.
Hi, Smita, how are you?
I'm fine. Thank you. How are you?
Wonderful. Looking forward to the session in a while. You're in Adia? How long have you been Adia already?
It's been 4 days.
4 days. Ah, I see. When are you returning?
Yes, what?
Like, when are you going back? How long are you staying in Adia?
Tomorrow I'm going back.
Okay. Wow, wonderful. How is Adia?
It's good. It's always good.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Hi, Leonardo.
Hello. Felt like yesterday that I met you and Mary Kay in the Zoom.
Oh, was it not yesterday?
Was
Oh,
it?
so 2 days?
Oh,
Oh,
today? Yeah.
oh yeah. The last class, was on Friday. Yeah. That's right.
How did you like
We
it,
live
Leonardo?
here.
How did you like it, Leonardo's?
It was amazing. Yeah.
He's coming
I
here.
I have always known that science and all of these occult things are connected, but not in that direct manner. It's amazing. You're saying Mary Kay?
No, I was saying he's coming here in Adyar, giving School of Wisdom.
Like,
October, right?
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you so much.
Hey, you.
Yeah.
Years ago, I connected.
Don't you want to sit closer?
Yeah, sorry. I have
Wow.
Oh, Kiran, I haven't seen you for ages and I still can't see you. But at least now I can read your name. Oh, Swedislav and Flower.
hello, hello.
Hello, hello.
Hi everyone.
Hello, hello.
Hello, guys. Just to let you all know that I'm still alive.
Very good news. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, indeed. Well, I just arrived from a trip from Turkey last night, so yeah, I'm not in a good shape to be on the camera, but I'm all ears.
What a coincidence, because part of the sharing today will involve some stuff relating to Turkey.
Oh,
If
yeah. Well, Rumi, sure. Yeah.
yeah, we're gonna talk. I have a little slide about the whirling dervishes. Yeah, if you had any experiences with that, I'll be happy to hear from you as well.
Sure, sure. Whenever you get to that point, definitely.
I would like to have a mini talk from you.
From me,
From you, yes.
well, I guess I talk a lot, so maybe not this time.
But it's a good time to rehearse.
Yeah, sure, sure.
Yeah.
How are you doing, Mary Kay?
Well, I am here in India. Been here like last 8-9 months have been constant summer.
Mm-hmm.
So this part is nice.
Right.
Yeah.
Wait for the real one. It's just around the corner. The
Didn't
real
have-
summer, I mean.
Yeah, that's true. We already feel that it's hard to sleep without AC.
Oh yeah, yeah. I was talking to my mother, yeah, last week, and she said the same. Although my part of India is not so hot, but then yeah, it still is getting pretty hot already. So
Where is exactly the part where you come from?
it's
Yeah,
Nasik.
that's right.
It's close to Mumbai, but it's a mountainous region, so it does have pleasant climate for the most part. But summer sometimes are a bit, crazy, especially with changing climate. It's just getting worse.
So I'm thinking we are already a few minutes over. Should we start?
Yes, let me know whenever you wish to begin.
Okay. Should I give you an introduction?
Well, up to you whether you feel it's necessary or not.
I'm thinking What do you think?
Problem. Well, if you like to, I can just go ahead. It's not,
Yes.
anyways, it's not meant to be like some formal talk or anything. It's not that I'm someone important. We're just here, and this is just my little attempt to try to understand some of the wisdoms of the sayings from the great sages in history. But for those of you whom maybe I've not met, have had the privilege of meeting in person yet, my name is Jaryl. I'm from Singapore, and I've been with the TS since 2022. And this series is just a series for me to it's just to unpack, like I mentioned, some of the great sayings that of sages in history. Before I go, let me just share my presentation. Can you all see it?
Yes,
Okay.
wonderful. Thank you.
Welcome. This series is called the Living the Wisdom of the Sages. As you can see, there are a number of sages on this slide, and I decided to do this because I was very inspired by the School of Wisdom that just passed in January. That was conducted by Dr. Ravi Ravindra. He had a School of Wisdom called Practicing Spiritual Teachings in Our Daily Life, and the entire course structure was for the span of 10 days. Each day we would examine a quote from a different sage in our world history, and to see how we can apply it in our own daily lives. But it's easy, I feel, for us to repeat these words and just sit there in the classroom and listen to a teacher. To really put it in practice and for us to come together to discuss about it is quite another level. And I feel that, words are just words are dead, but it is more important for us to live the teachings of these teachers. And obviously for me, I am not at the summit of Mount Everest where these teachers are. I am still at the very bottom of the summit. So this is just my sincere attempts to, as I prepare these presentations and as we have dialogue together with each other, to try to understand some universal principles that these sages are trying to impart to us, and to see how we can apply it, especially in 2025 in our modern world today. The second objective that I have is that, I also intend for this to be also a group sharing and a group dialogue, because I feel that it would be important. I'm, again, just one person and limited in my own perspective, and every one of you are equally valuable in having your own insights and experiences from your own spiritual search so far. So a part of this, what the format that I'm trying to do is for this to be less of a talk. Of course, there'll be a bit of sharing about the background of each sage, and as well as what the quotes might be speaking about, so that we have something to discuss together. But the hope is that that we can create a participatory environment as much as possible, where we can do this together, so have dialogue together, rather than just me speaking too much. So for those who may not know Dr. Ravi Ravindra, let me just briefly say that he is an Emeritus Professor at Dalhousie University in Canada, and he is a professor in science, in physics specifically, in philosophy, and also in comparative religion. So he has been conducting a number of schools of wisdom at the ADIA campus for the last 3 years already. And for him, he speaks across, of course, not just the domains of religion, but also from science and philosophy. So for me, it has been really impactful for me to hear that actually all of the sages in history are sort of speaking the same thing. And the idea behind this series is to unpack what are these universal principles that they are speaking about. So the roadmap for this series is, the intention is to have 10 meetings in total, once a month from now to the rest of the year, right? And usually it'll be a Sunday at 11 a.m. GMT, which is when we are meeting right now. The idea for each meeting is to explore one quotation from each sage and then to discuss how we can practically apply the teachings in our daily lives. And so the hope is that for every meeting, we will have a bit of meditation, some sharing about the background of each sage, as well as the quotes, as well as some dialogue along the way. The reason why I think sharing will also be important is because, you know, for me, I come from a particular cultural background. For example, I'm living in Singapore. I am currently studying a bit in Buddhism, but also Theosophy. But again, everyone else that's, you know, connected on Zoom right now, each of you are also coming from your own cultural backgrounds, from the Western side of the world, you know, from India, for example, and each of you would definitely have more in-depth insights and experiences about particular sages from your own culture. And so sharing from those perspectives, I imagine would be very helpful for those of us who may be less acquainted with certain sages from other cultures, right? So that is at least the intention, to share a bit more also about each sage along the way. Then there will also be suggested exercises that will be given either before or after every meeting as well. The idea would be to just maybe go back after each meeting and then just reflect on what was shared. And I will also be happy, I would really be happy if I could hear some of your reflections and insights as well. I guess it's a way to motivate each of us as well to put them in practice even after the meeting is over. But of course, even though we are examining the quotes from 10 different sages, I am still reminded at the end of the day that, you know, we don't make an idol of any particular sage. And so this quote here is particularly apt. The idea here is not necessarily to follow any particular sage at all, but rather to seek what they sought. Each sage will have had their own journeys, even in their own lives, the Buddha and the Christ. And today we're going to speak about Rumi. Even in my own little preparation for this talk, Rumi himself had his own journey in his life that brought him to where he was. And there is something there I believe that we can also learn from. But ultimately, it is not about worshipping any one particular sage blindly. You know, seek not to follow in the footsteps of the wise ones, as this quote says, but to seek what they sought. And so these are the 10 quotes that I just wanted to just flash for you all to take a look for the rest of the year. So today we'll be examining a quote from Rumi. Everything in the universe is within you. Ask from yourself. Next month, on the 20th of April, we'll examine a quote from Christ. Unless you leave yourself behind, you cannot be a follower of mine. And then in May, we'll look at a quote from the Bhagavad Gita. In there, Krishna says, submitting all your actions to me, struggle without agitation. And then in June, we'll move on to a more modern teacher, Krishnamurti. He has a quote there that says, as long as I am, love is not. A few weeks back, we had already a nice little sharing about love. So this will be a nice little continuation from that. And then in July, we'll move over to Patanjali. In the Yoga Sutras, he says, yoga is for cultivating samadhi and for weakening the hindrances. So that might be a nice little time to speak about what yoga really means, you know, and how it is different from modern conceptions of yoga, for example. In August, we'll move to a modern teacher as well. This is one of Dr. Ravi's own teachers, Jean de Salzman. She has a quote there, ego is a good servant, but a bad master. Then in September, we'll go to an ancient sage in history, the Buddha. He says, in this very body, you can discover all the demons and all the gods. And then in October, we'll move back to the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna had another quote that says, steadfast in yoga, the knower of truth realizes, truly I do nothing at all. And then in November, Jean de Salzman quote, she talks about the body. Your body is not only yours. So what do we mean by the body, and what does our identity really mean? That's something that we could explore. And then finally, in December, the intention is to examine another quote from Christ. If you love me, you will keep my commandments. And in this context, we can speak about what love means, love in the divine sense. And so before I move on to today's sharing, I just wanted to also, invite any of you who may have already seen any of these quotes, and if any of these quotes resonate with you, or they may have come from your own cultural background, to invite you to also come on to that meeting and share or co-share together. We can always work things out. Especially if there was a particular quote or particular stage that you might have always been interested in, but have had not a chance to do so, and this presents an opportunity, please do let me know. Please reach out to me, and then we can always talk about, co-presenting, co-sharing some of the ideas that are touched on in any of these quotes. Okay, I'll just quickly flash the quotes once again, just for a few seconds. This is from March to July. And then this is August to December. Okay, so if anyone feels moved to speak about any of the particular quotes or any of the themes that jump out to you when you read any particular quote, please do reach out to me. I'm happy to make this a group activity rather than just an individual, sharing. All right. Okay. So now we'll move on to the quote for today from Rumi. Everything in the universe is within you. Ask all from yourself. Before I go on with my sharing and perhaps color any perceptions about what this quote might mean, I thought for a start it might be nice for us to have a meditation on this quote. And so if you're willing to participate in this meditation, I invite you to find a quiet space, make yourselves comfortable. And if you'd like to close your eyes, please feel free to do so.
Can you please show the code
Absolutely, yes. Oops.
for a moment?
Yeah, I'll leave the slide here. So we can meditate on this quote together, just by ourselves first. All right, so find a quiet and comfortable space. Gently close your eyes and take a deep breath in and out. Feel your body relaxing from your forehead to your shoulders, to your arms, resting them, to your hips, and down all the way to your feet. Allow yourself to arrive fully at this moment. Now, bring your awareness inward. Imagine yourself as a vast space, open and limitless. You are not just this body. You are not just this mind. You are part of something much, much greater. Rumi's words remind us, everything in the universe is within you. Everything in the universe is within you. Let those words settle into your being. As you settle in, you're invited to reflect on this question. What are you seeking in this very moment? Why are you here? Are you looking for clarity? Are you looking for love, peace, joy, unity, wisdom? Find any expression that resonates with you. What are you looking for in this moment? Whatever you are seeking right now, I invite you to consider that it is already within you. Recognize that whatever you are searching for, whether it's love, wisdom, joy, peace, happiness, strength, courage, whatever expression you found for yourself, recognize that that is already within you. So can I trust that everything I need is already here? Can I trust that everything that I need can already be found within me? If any doubts arise, simply watch them like clouds in the sky, just observing that without resisting it, just watching them float and watching them float away. Rumi's words guide us to look inward. So some questions we can ask ourselves. In my own life, when have I found answers by listening to my own intuition? When have I found answers by listening to my own intuition? And what happens when I stop searching outside and start believing in my own wisdom? What happens when I stop searching outside and start believing in my own wisdom? Sit with this knowing and let the silence speak to you. All right, now slowly bring your awareness back to your breath. Wiggle your toes, slowly coming back. Whenever you're ready, I invite you to open your eyes. Maybe I'll just pause for a few seconds if anyone had anything that came to them during the exercise. If you do, I invite you to use the raise hand icon. Just wait for a few seconds, then move on. Okay. Right, so today we're going to talk briefly about Rumi, and I thought it'd be apt to just speak about his background. So Rumi's full name is Jalal al-Din Muhammad Rumi. He was a 13th century Persian poet, Islamic scholar, and Sufi mystic. He was born in Balkh, which is a small town in Afghanistan. And while this is not a cultural session, so we can't speak too much about him, but I thought it might be interesting to just trace a bit of his life to see how he came to be where he was today, where he was, especially in the later part of his life. In his early life, he was quite steeped in Islamic jurisprudence as well as scholarship, because his own father was a famous theologian. So in the end, after his father passed away, Rumi took on his father's position as well as an Islamic scholar. And so if any of you might understand a bit about Islamic culture, there are a lot of formalities and rules involved in conventional mainstream Islamic culture. For example, in Singapore, there is quite a sizable Muslim population here. And in my own work as a lawyer, I've done a bit of Muslim practice, and they do have a lot of rules even regarding inheritance, regarding divorce, which are very different from non-Muslims, for example. So almost every aspect of life has rules. And back then, from my own research, Rumi himself was involved in issuing a lot of these Islamic rulings. They're called fatwas, to guide people in how to conduct their daily aspects of life. But then there was a transformative moment in his life when he had encountered a wanderer known as Shams, when Rumi was just 37 years old. And this eventually shifted his focus from formal religious studies to the mystical dimensions of Islam, which emphasized direct personal experience of the divine. And their bond eventually led Rumi to express a lot of his spiritual insights, of course, most famously through his poetry, as many of you will be familiar. His seminal work was the Masnavi. He was also quite important figure in integrating poetry, music, and dance into spiritual practice, especially in Islam. From my own personal experience, I understand that conventional mainstream Islamic culture are not so embracing of certain musical forms. For example, my own teachers, I learned an instrument called the djembe, which is a West African drum, and West Africa has parts of West Africa follow the Islam culture. And so a lot of these African teachers do share with us that their music, which is drumming, is quite frowned upon by the culture itself. But Rumi, back then, he was integral in bringing a lot of these artistic dimensions like poetry, music, dance into Islamic culture to make mysticism especially more accessible. And he was most instrumental in founding the Mevlevi order, known for their whirling dervishes. So it's that dance that you might have seen before, where these members of the order called dervishes, they would spin around on the spot, and it symbolizes the soul's ascent towards the divine. So here I have a little video about the whirling. So just a few minutes, so enjoy the video.
Akarsuyun gidişine yüzerseniz daha rahat olur. Ama terse yüzerseniz çok daha zor olur, yorulursunuz. Bu da aynı. Dünya dönüyor, sen de dönüyor. Bütün zerreler dönüyor, sen de dönüyorsun orada. Şu bizim dünya görüşünü, Yaradan'ı kendi vücudunda hisseden bir görüşe sahiptir. 20 senedir semazenlik yapıyorum. Ben 66 yaşındayım. İşte bir tarikat yerine gittiğimde orada Sufizm uygulaması öğrenmeye başladım. Dönüyorsun. Mana temizlik. Dünyadan soyunuyorsun siyah hırkayı çıkarttığın zaman. Dünyevi şeylerden şimdi ilk sola attığın zaman al deriz. Bunu attığımız zaman da lah deriz. Allah, Allah, Allah. Ama bu zikir içtendir. Sağ el üsttedir, sol el onun altındadır. Yani haktan alır, halka dağıtırım. Vallahi orada da bir yakınlık hissediyorsunuz. Yaradan'dan bir yakınlık hissediyorsunuz. Yaradan her şahsın şah damarından daha yakındır. Dönmede dünya dönüyor, bütün zerreler dönüyor.
All right. And by serendipity, I was preparing this presentation before coming into today's Zoom session, and I just heard from Kiran just a few minutes ago that he had just been to Turkey. So, Kiran, I wonder whether you could share with us, did you see any of this? How was your experience like also seeing it if you did?
Well, I particularly didn't go and attend the cultural aspects, especially, there are, of course, events in Turkey, and they're pretty popular too, which are to do with, the traditional music and singing and dancing. But I think this is more, of something that is practiced mostly, for touristic reasons. It's not really so much part of the mainstream culture there in Turkey, because as you rightly outlined earlier, that Sufism is something that is like a branch out from conventional Islam. So a lot of things within Sufism, they still don't fit well, or they don't sit well with, the traditional Islamic practices. But I don't know. I mean, it's something, of course, I've heard of, I've read of, but it's not something that you would, visibly see so easily even in countries like Turkey, unless you go to some special events where they are showcasing these kind of performances or, these kind of activities.
Right. It's such a shame to hear it's mostly like a tourist attraction, because from what I see from this video and also from the little that I've researched so far, it sounds like the dance itself provides a very significant religious purpose in connecting us with the divine. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that, Kiran. Did you want to say something?
No, I was just saying that, of course, I mean, it is a big thing in Sufism, but Sufism itself has, been limited to very, very, it's like a fringe culture in most Islamic countries these days, because it doesn't sit well with, the conventional theocratics of Islam. So they have big differences, which is what you mentioned while giving the introduction, was the personal experience of union with the ultimate, or God, or Allah, or whatever you prefer to name it. That itself is controversial in Islam. because Islam does not believe that an individual can have a direct experience of God. He cannot be in union with that ultimate. So because of that, that's not the theme of course today's discussion, but that's the reason why in practice you don't really see these things happening so much.
Absolutely. Yeah, I also see that in Singapore as well. The mainstream Singapore, Muslim community, they see Allah as external to us. And so in fact, this is the month of Ramadan. So a lot of them are doing a lot of good merits so that they can try to gain points. Literally, that's what my Muslim friend told me, gain points with Allah so that they can, so God is seen as external to them. But Sufism takes a very different and very mystical stance. Yes, so that moves us very nicely, I think, to exactly what Rumi was trying to say in his quote, right? About examining the universe within us, right? The idea here is not to explore Sufism so much as to explore the principles behind this quote specifically and what it means for us. So here are some suggestions before I invite anyone who might have any further thoughts on this topic. Right. Immediately when I hear the words everything in the universe can be found within us, it reminds me of the law of correspondence. So aptly summed up as above, so below. Blavatsky has written it in a couple of ways. As above, so it's below. That which has been will return again, as in heaven, so on earth. And more specifically to us as man or humans, we are the microcosm of the great macrocosm, that we are a little world, a microcosm inside a great universe. And Pythagoras himself also speaks something similar about the man being the measure of all things. But what does that mean to us in spiritual search is something that I continue to ask myself. And Dr. Ravi Ravindra talks about this, that in principle, if the universe is within us, then to understand the world, we only need to look within to understand ourselves. And so he says here, impartial self-study is therefore the call. And the general idea that he's trying to call us to is that the further we look within, the deeper we look within, if we are truly at the very foundational level, at a place of unity, then in principle, the deeper we look within, we will eventually find that whatever that we see in ourselves is also the human condition. And so that's why he says here, gradually one begins to see that our own individual fears and selfish desires are universal characteristics of human beings, although manifesting in particular ways. We begin to understand that the whole humanity is run by forces of reward and punishment, by the wish for approval and fear of disapproval. And an individual then also begins to see that below the layer of fear and ambition, there is an aspiration for a connection with the source of all life and for meaning. In moments of insight, we realize that we are both the searchers and the objects of our search. And so in essence, there is something that's moving in us as we look closer and closer within. Whatever that is particular to us becomes more and more universal. And so that's why, practically speaking, when we juxtapose spiritual search to science, the juxtaposition is often that the call in spiritual traditions is to look deeply within, whereas the whole scientific enterprise, at least modern science, has been about looking outside objectively. Marike and Leonardus and I, we just recently came out of another online school of wisdom with Dr. Billy Moria, and he makes a similar remark that actually modern science has a lot to learn from occult science. Modern science, it's very, it's caught up with objective instruments and perception about looking at the particular. But occult science starts from the universal and moves towards the particular, and that is the difference. But because modern science is looking from inward outwards, we will never be able to truly reach the universal. And so there are ways in which both can interact. So that's another practical application of Rumi's remarks. And so then the implication, at least for our relationship with ourselves and the world, you know, we always, some of us might always hear, you know, people protesting, trying to change things, wanting the world to be different, wishing the world to be different than what it is now. But Dr. Ravindra's remarks here reminds us that no spiritual teacher tries to reform the world. The call is always to reform oneself. The call to all their disciples is always to ask us, how can we look at what is happening to us within, and to be aware of what is moving within us in their own language, in their own expressions. Of course, every sage, as we move through this series, every sage will of course have their own particular expressions or practices. But ultimately, the question is, what is their universal call? And that's what we are interested in finding out. And one such remark is about this, that we look within, that we, in order to change the world, we start by trying to change ourselves first. And so Rumi had another similar remark. Therefore, he says, yesterday I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. Today I'm wise, so I'm changing myself. But then, Dr. Ravi's words now come to my mind. Don't take whatever they say blindly. See whether these words really resonate with your own experience. And so for me, I had one small little experience a couple of days ago. A friend of mine who was teaching drums in a school met with some racist remarks about West African drumming. Some of the teachers in that school said, when they saw the students playing West African drum, the teacher said, in English, you know, why don't you paint yourselves black? Then you'll be closer to the culture. And then some also said that the students should dance wildly like the Africans themselves. And immediately when I heard those remarks, my first intuition was to label it as a racist remark. And then when I checked back with my own teacher, he himself said it is not racist, but ignorant. So when I see that I label myself, when I see in myself that I am labeling them, their remarks as being racist, I see that I've already divided themselves from myself, that I have already seen them as different from me, seen their remarks as being different from me, and so I see that conflicts even within myself. And that's something that I just need to continue to notice and be more aware of as I continue to move about in my own life. So that's my small little example. And so I just wanted to invite you all to maybe just have some comments so far about what has been shared today. What does the phrase "everything in the universe is within you" mean to me, as in you? How do I ask all from myself? And what is required for an impartial self-study of the self? I'll give space now for anyone who might have any comments so far on this topic. Yes, please. Is it Mary Kay or Smita or Vignesh that raised the hand?
I think it's Vignesh. Okay. No. No. This is me. If I see this phrase, the first one, everything in the universe is within you, and ask for from yourself. It reminds me that Delphi's oracles saying about know thyself, the first thing we should do. But I think this knowing and this inter-reflection, it is ongoing thing. It is not just, if I truly know myself, I think I would be already enlightened. but everything in the universe is within you. That reminds me something like a theosophical. In Theosophy, human being is living in 7 different planes that are inside. And we are like, how can I say? In the Theosophical study, they say that animals and let's say stones have they're our less evolved, let's say, brothers. But at the same time, everything that there is to be, like the higher levels, like the Buddhi and the intuition and the cosmic levels, are also there. So everything lower, I understand that human being is the one that consists of everything that there are beings who have lower beings who have not the higher aspects, and the higher beings who do not have the lower aspects, but human beings have all the aspects. So that's why for a human being, it is like truth that everything in the universe is within you. That is one of the things. And as call from myself, I was recently reading this Light and Path, and I was thinking about how there was also mentioned about how can we start listening our inner voice. And the first thing is that we must we if you want to know more, then first thing is to have like a question, or to have this hunger for knowing more, or like knowing the truth. And to reach that those questions or these answers start coming from yourself. This is like an higher thing, I think. Because we are very used to looking outside ourselves the answers.
Yeah.
But at what point the answers start coming from myself?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. I heard a number of relevant insights about how even rocks at lower levels of consciousness, kingdoms, and lower, not in the pejorative sense, just about planes, that even they are connected to us, and that human beings, in a way, because we have all 7 planes, that we are able to inquire across the 7 planes if we are able to look within. And then the other one that you spoke about listening to the inner voice, requires us to question and having a hunger for knowing more. That's helpful. Next, Siatoslav, is that how I pronounce your name?
Yes, very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jaryl. Are we commenting on just the first one or on all 3?
Any that resonate with you?
Okay. So, well, about the first one, it seems that it's reasonable to if we want to change something for the better, we should do it inside ourselves, because where else, right? Outside us, there are so many things that are outside of our control. Almost everything depends on many other factors. So we cannot really predict the outcome. We can just make a right effort, but the outcome is very often something we shouldn't attach to, because we don't know what will happen ultimately. But almost everything inside us depends on us. So it makes sense to produce changes inside ourselves. And as for the second one, I think There is a quote that is attributed to the Buddha, although I don't know whether he really said it or not, but I really liked it. It says that to think that someone else can make you happy or unhappy is laughable. So I think karmically, ultimately, we decide what comes to us, even through others. Still, it's mostly our consequence of our actions. And of course, there is group karma, but individual karma can overcome with individual effort, even group karma. Somebody can, someone can survive a train crash or even plane crash. It happens in history. So group karma can be overcome with individual efforts. So this is a big motivation and a very big hope to me. We don't have to wait for external circumstances or something or someone. So it's also a very big source of strength, actually. Ask everything from yourself and see clearly. It's even more than just believing. It's understanding how it works, that yes, I changed my life, right, with my efforts, and I am the source of this change. And the third one was required for impartial self-study. I think a lot of discontent. There is this phrase that I like also, divine discontentment, something like that. So we try to find answers in outside world so long before we finally really turn to ourselves, and then we also try to color in pleasant colors ourselves so much before we finally start seeing that no, that doesn't really do the job, that doesn't do the task. We need to remove all that and see what it is. And when this discontentment becomes sufficient, then we throw away all the masks and we start studying ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Satoslav. I hear a very important theme that you've really touched on, which is about choice and how looking within allows us to produce changes, true change, because anything that's outside of us is really out of our control. And to think that someone can make us happy will only lead us to misery. But I also hear from you that it's an important source of strength, therefore, and it allows us to take back responsibility of ourselves, especially also because it is part of our karma as well. Whatever that we choose to do will eventually produce those results. And so it's a question of whether we find we are able to use that power of choice, in order to produce the changes that we want to see. Thank you. Francis, please.
I think the first phrase, everything in the universe is within you. To me, what it means is about the possibilities of or the potential of the universe is all within us. And what that also means that a lot of things that we think that we are limited by, or we might be fearful of or worried about, could be actually, we could actually place those worries and trust that things that we might, the worst fears that we might have about a certain kind of outcome may not be the only thing that might happen. We could actually look at all the highest possible potential. You see, I think this one has a lot to do with how a lot of times when we want to practice, we try and practice spiritual, like meditation, we try and study. I think some part of ourselves, there's a very quiet whisper that says, maybe we don't have to do it today. What difference would it make? We are not going to be a Buddha in this lifetime. What does this make? But the thing is, unless we are really very clear about past life, we will never know what is our true potential. Sometimes this might sound a little bit like those motivational videos and stuff like this that talks about how you have to prove it to the world, you can change the world, you can impact, you can do a lot of stuff. I think sometimes, I think the part about going into the spiritual journey got me taking a step back and think about how those motivations are also part of the desires. And then recently I started to realize again, it doesn't mean that I do not have to need desire to actually have possibility or something that I might, that is difficult to do. It's impossible. It's actually possible, very possible. And the second part about how ask all from myself is really asking to trust the universe, which is also myself. Because every single atom or particle in our body is literally made from stardust in the physical sense, right? And of course, the potential of the most highest is also in us as well. And then the part about what is required for an impartial self-study, I think I do agree. It always starts from the divine discontentment. But then as time goes by, we start to realize a lot of all the stuff initially are all quite nonsense. And then we will slowly start to try and trust the quieter aspects of the reflection of the study or the contemplation of ourselves. So I think like the requirement for the impartial self-study of the self is to aspire, is to strive to be quieter the next time round where we are in self-inquiry. I think strive. Yeah, thank you.
A beautiful, topic on potentialities. Not in the new age sense, manifestation sense about potentialities, but that our limited mind just cannot fathom the possibilities of where things would go, and to just strive on, therefore, without thinking about the consequences. That's very powerful. Leo, yes, I see your hand is raised. Then maybe we'll take that as a final comment for now, but we will still have open dialogue at the end. So Mary Kay, if you raised your hand, we can get to you as well during the open dialogue at the end. Yeah, thank you. Leo.
I think that what does the phrase "everything in the universe is within you" mean to me? It reminds me of one of the sayings of the Buddha, that you are the becoming Buddha. And it reminds me the third objects of the TS, to discover the latent power within us. And then the third one, it reminds me of, if we all know that we are the monads, a spark of the divine, we are godlike in nature. So if we do believe that the creation of the universe is actually God himself, then if everything in the universe is within you, that we are God, we are godlike. So the potentiality is already there. So that is my understanding of this one. And when it comes to the second question, how do you ask all for myself? And it reminds me one of the saying in the Bible, you just need to ask, you shall be answered. So this reminds me that the potentiality is there, but sometimes things are not happening the way that we want. It doesn't mean that because the potentiality is not there, it's maybe because of our karma that we actually prevent it from coming true. And the next question that we need to ask ourselves, ask all from ourselves, is that why do we have such kind of karma? Is that because of our bad thoughts, our past life, bad behaviors? it always comes down to self-querying or self-inquiring. And to me, the third one, what is required for an impartial self-study of the self, lower self or higher self, the very first step for me, at least for me, it is important to realize and to stop identifying ourselves as the personal self. Because the moment that we are still identify ourselves with all the senses, with this body, we will never have an impartial self-study. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Some of the reminders, especially about asking and you shall be answered. I think it was Christ who said, "If you believe, you shall receive." That was the quote in the Bible. The first comment about the divine nature in us, it's wonderful that you spoke about that, because I prepared a slide, but because of limited time, I couldn't put it in this presentation. But maybe I'll just show that, just if for interest's sake. Yeah, that there are actually many expressions of our divine nature across world religions, and here I just put out 4 of the largest world religions. From Christianity, the kingdom of God is within you. This is from the Gospel of Luke. The Buddha himself had a philosophy, especially Mahayana philosophy, about the Tathagata Garbha, that all beings have the Tathagata Garbha. In Pali, Tathagata is an expression usually used to describe the Buddha. Thus come and thus gone is its literal meaning. And so usually it's describing the Buddha. And Garbha means womb. So literally it means the womb of the Buddha, or Buddha nature, as in residing in each of us is the seed of potentiality to become a Buddha. So in Buddhism, there is that idea as well. And then in the Quran, I came upon this a few months back, and it keeps on running in my mind. But there's this phrase that says, when you face in the direction of the east or west, you will see the face of Allah. Wherever you turn yourselves or your faces, there is the face of Allah. Some translation says, when you face in the direction of east or west, wherever you turn yourself or your faces, Allah is within you. So it still suggests that Allah is separate from us. But certain translation says, when you turn, wherever you turn, you see the face of Allah, which suggests that there is also the face of Allah residing in all beings. That's another possible and more mystical interpretation to take from the Quran. And then finally, from the Hindu tradition, from the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna himself says, an eternal portion of myself, as in the particle of divinity, becomes the jiva, the living creatures in the world of jivas. So a particle of Krishna, or our divine nature, is residing in all of us, which suggests that, even across world religions, and we can go on speaking about it, many other sages also say the same thing, but there is this undercurrent idea that there is a part of us residing a divine nature that all sages seem to point us towards. And again, it's in line with Rumi's quote about how all the universe is within us. Mary Kay, you had a comment on this particular point?
Yes, exactly. About this. So about the womb of the Buddha, I think the Garbha is translated, is actually like an unborn baby inside the womb. So we all are like a fetuses of Buddhas in that sense. Not the womb of the Buddha, but the unborn Buddhas in that sense. Yeah, Buddha seeds, maybe.
Exactly, seeds of Buddha that's within us. Yes, thank you. And in the chat, Kiran has said that in the Bhagavad Gita, the quote, Jiva means beings and Krishna means supreme consciousness. Yes, that is also my understanding. So Dr. Ravi Ravindra translates Jiva as living creatures. So beings, when he means beings, his idea would be the sentient beings that we perceive and see on this earth. And that Krishna is the supreme consciousness. Yeah, he says something similar, that it's residing in all of us. So I appreciate that alternative definition as well. Sviatoslav, please.
Yes, also the comment about the nature of the Buddha. I heard in a lecture that I think in Tibetan it's expressed actually in a different way. It's expressed that it's a family trait, and it means that it's
Feminine
family trait.
trait.
So everyone who belongs to the family of the Buddhas can become the Buddha, a Buddha, realize that potential. And who are these? All human beings. So it's a beautiful, beautiful way to indicate and reinforce the understanding that we are all the family of Buddhas, and we all have that potential inside us. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, and the beauty about the Buddha's teachings is that it is applicable to all beings. So it's not that you have to be a follower of the Buddha to do that. When he means the seed of Buddha nature resides in all of us, he literally means all of us, down to even the rocks and the stones. So yes, let me move on back to, okay. All right. So the next topic I just wanted to share briefly about is about silence, especially in Rumi's own works. In his own poetry, I saw from my research that he devotes a lot of attention to silence. In Persia, it's called khamush. Khamush literally means silence or quiet, but in his poetry, actually it carries a spiritual meaning beyond just silence. In his seminal work, Divani Shamsi Tabrizi, he signs off many of his poems, I think about 500 over poems, with khamush at the end. Coleman Barks, which is a modern translator of Rumi's poems, has said before that the khamush functions as a bridge link from the poem to the reader's consciousness following the poem. And so here I provide a few examples, some closing lines from Rumi's poems. And I wonder whether anyone might be interested to read out these lines from Rumi's poetry, just so that we have an appreciation of his thoughts on silence. Leonidas, yes, please. So there are 4 passages here on his thoughts on silence. So I invite you, after every passage, just pause for a short while so we can feel his words before we move to the next one. Thank you.
Be silent now. Say fewer and fewer praise poems. Let yourself become living poetry. Do you know this silence? It is not the same as in your room when you have no one to talk to. This is pure silence, not the kind that happens when living dogs are eating a dead one. Music begins. Your silence deepen that. Were you to put words with this, we would not survive the song. Now, it is time for silence. If I told you about his true essence, you would fly from yourself and be gone. And neither door nor roof could hold you back.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Leonidas. So as you can see from his characterizations of silence, it's very different. Silence is different from no sound. Like it's not about quietude. It's a silence. And the reason why I'm bringing up silence is because, at least in my own journey, when we start to inquire within, For example, in meditation, but not necessarily only sitting meditation, the first phenomena we will encounter is silence. And so in a way, it's a gateway for us as we start to look deeper and deeper within. That's why Ramana Maharshi, sorry, the Indian sage has said before that silence is the highest teaching. The highest form of grace is silence. He says it is also the highest teaching. But still, even though, and I think we spoke about this, Liu Tai, I remember it was you who raised this about, we were speaking about that, and how eventually we reach a point where expressions, as we look deeper and deeper, become meaningless, because expressions or words cannot truly capture, for example, certain experiences that we feel, love, which we were talking about a couple of weeks ago, and whether it's truth, peace, love, joy, these are experiences to be had rather than words to be said. And yet, I was recently reminded about how, if all the masters eventually just practice silence, then us who are at the bottom of the summit, we won't even understand or won't even know where to begin to move forward in our practice. So even though when we speak, of course, language is a problem because we are trapped in its dualistic function. Language always has, things that exist or don't exist, or male and female, for example. It always has opposites, but that which the sages always point to is something that is universal, that has no opposites. And so every time we use words, in a way, it's a mistake. But then I'm reminded of this quote: if I speak, I lie, but if I stay silent, I'm a coward. So in a way, if we didn't have all these sages speaking about their own experiences or delivering their teachings through the mode of words, we wouldn't be here studying their teachings, and we wouldn't have a way to access their teachings. And so words still remain important, but they're not to be grasped. I think it's the idea that's being communicated here. So I imagine my invitation is to speak about, for us to continue dialogue in these matters, so that we can at least move a little closer to what all these sages are experiencing. Which comes to then another invitation for dialogue about your experiences with silence. I wonder whether in your own inner searches, for example, when you're meditating or when you're moving, what is your experience with silence in your practice, and how do you relate with this idea of silence? Bear in mind that, for example, Rumi is not saying about silence as in no sound, right? He speaks about how it's not about living dogs feeding on the dead, that kind of silence, but a very different kind of silence. So I wonder what your experiences are with that. Francis?
Can I start from the previous slide? I got a
Yes, please.
as in the previous thing we were talking about words. As in no, it's okay. It's not a slide. So there's something that I learned before some years back, is that this is the part about what it means to have open-mindedness of when we study, is that when we actually hold on to an idea or understanding, we will exclude every other possibility of what a word means or what the subject means. And the thing is, when you were mentioning about how words can't express, or words can be actually meaningless when we want to try and express something which is very profound, is that if we are trying to use words to describe unity or the oneness, the words itself that we use is excluding every other possibilities, every single word. And I think this one is quite an interesting one. And when it comes to the practice of silence, is that every thought that we think while we are practicing the silence, when we are focusing on that, that means we're excluding every other thing.
Yeah.
So as long as there's a thought, there's a differentiation. So yeah, that's how I relate to silence. As long as there is any kind of perception, or I take any sight or any perspective, then that is not a silence. Yeah, thanks.
Wow, yeah, thank you. I never thought of words as having an exclusionary function. You know, it's excluding other perceptions. But it totally makes sense that words differentiate, and therefore in differentiation comes an othering if we stick to one particular perspective. I really appreciate that. And so silence in a way doesn't have that function, on the other hand. So it doesn't exclude, unlike what words and thoughts have. Thank you. Leonidas, please.
In my practice, which is in the beginning, as what you mentioned, at the lowest of the summit, I see silence as a gradual practice, in the sense of like, there are many voices from my reactionary emotions, from the deeper emotions, from the deep-seated emotions, and then like, so silence is silencing the loudest to allow for something that is quieter to be heard. And then as this quiet voice becomes more accustomed to me, then I learn how to silence that too, for even more quieter voice to appear, up until everything in the emotion and in the mind is silenced. Then there is truer and truer silence, in that sense, for more quieter voices to appear. That's my take and my practice.
Thank you, Leonidas. It's beautiful. To quiet ourselves so that we can hear something subtler, more silence coming from within. Leo, please.
I think that I experienced like that kind, like at least to my personal experience. I'm not sure if what kind of silence it is, but it happens before I went to India. I think that during that year, at least twice, that there are some events happening. And to me, the definition of silence or the experience of silence doesn't mean that there's no sound, because these two moments happens when I was doing something. One time I was in my home, I was about to go out to the park, and the other time when I was in the airport in Bali, full of people. But the experiencing of silence, it just very gentle, it's subtle, and it's very swift. And at that moment, there was no thinking. You just feel the urge to do it. And of course, the fruits of it is that it's always about love or beauty or truth. And there was no self in there. It's always about, other people, like altruistic action or something like that. Because from this experiencing of silence, I met two other people, and somehow I did something for them, and that was exactly what they needed. And they said, "And how do you know that I was in need of this one? Why did you give me exactly what I've been asking God for?" And I cannot explain. So this is something that I experienced with silence. So to me, silence is more about intuition. And so after those kind of events, when I went to India at the first time, I have come to the conclusion that, at least to me, silence is the language of the hearts.
Beautiful. I appreciate the sharing of your experiences. I hear you experience silence as a movement. It is gentle, swift, and subtle, you said, but that actually it's a movement coming from the impersonal, so there's no self in there. And that is beautiful, because that also resonates very deeply with my experience. In my experience, the things that have moved in my life that come from a deeper calling, they tend to be the easiest. And I don't have to worry or have fears or anxieties around it. And I've always wondered why it always seems easy, but what you're sharing really resonates and with my own experience about that. Yes, Sviatoslav, please.
I remember about a painting by Nicholas Roerich of Milarepa, the great Tibetan sage, that is called Milarepa the Listener. And I think the idea is that, at least that's what Roerich expresses, that he was listening a lot to the space. And the idea behind it is, as far as I understand and remember, if I remember correctly, is that the thoughts of all great beings who ever lived are actually in space, on our planet and also on other planets as well, perhaps. So you can get connected to them if you listen quietly enough and deeply enough. You can listen to this kind of conversation of thoughts of the great beings of all times, something like that. But in my personal experience, it's healing, yes, because we get so tired of noise physical and of noise of our thoughts and emotions so much, and we need to kind of harmonize everything, and silence does that. And that's what already was mentioned. The silence physical is just one, like surface level of silence, right? Because then there is silence of our thoughts, of our mind. That is really important. And then it also gives strength somehow, because we lose strength, I think, by scattering our energy, our attention to a million things outside. But when we manage to turn it inside, we gain it back somehow. And it's at the same time difficult sometimes to maintain it, this silence, because we are so attached to it, so directed outside, that it's difficult to stay with ourselves, to disconnect from that. That is a powerful habit. But it's also sometimes very desirable for us, because we get too tired and then we want to restore our inner balance and visit, so to say, our inner world that we neglect to do so much in our modern life, I think. Thank you.
Thank you, Sviatoslav. Yeah, I appreciate the reminders about especially silence as a healing function, that it gives us a chance to restore our energies to ourselves. And that was an interesting comment you raised at the start too, about how it also helps us to connect with greater beings on the subtler planes. Appreciate that. I wish we had more time to discuss all of this, but with the 5 minutes left, I will try to move on, and let's see where we go with this. The next topic I do want for us to really speak a bit more about, because it's to do with us as a group rather than as individuals, about whether when we conduct this self-inquiry, do we inquire alone, or is it necessary to do it with others? Something to think about. I just have one quote here from Dr. Ravi. He speaks about how impartial self-study is the call, but he also cautions us that it is a dangerous enterprise to look within, because there are two common consequences when one starts the enterprise of self-study. One is fantasy. One starts to realize I am Brahman, or I am the God, or I am the divine. And, they have, in a way, they inflate the small s without ever connecting with the higher s. The second consequence is despair, because we realize that, yes, we are connected, but then in a way we lose our small s self-identity. And so then there is a danger about thinking that, oh, I am nothing in this world. If I were to die tomorrow, nothing that I live in this world will really can be seen in the next, 10, 20 or 1,000 years. In 1,000 years' time, nothing of my existence will come to pass on this planet. Right? So there's the trap there to fall into despair. And so he speaks about how he often highly recommends students to undertake spiritual practices in the company of some fellow searchers. But again, we don't take, reminder, we don't take these teachers' words for it, but we have to examine it for ourselves. And so I wonder whether it'd be nice to maybe just speak just about this, about whether we should inquire alone or with fellow searchers. Is it really necessary that we are to have common searches on this path, or can one be completely alone when inquiring? And if we do have a group of spiritual searchers together, what kind of qualities are required for such a group who wish to inquire together, like us, WFYT? Yes, I see the first hand up is Francis, and then after that followed by Leota.
Yeah. You know, the first answer that came to my mind on the slide, the first slide you talk about if inquiry should be done alone or with others.
Yes.
First answer that came to my mind is that even when we are alone, the inquiry will definitely be with someone else, because our thoughts or whatever that we think about is most of the time related to a relationship with something else or someone else. It's not so much about, like, we sit together and we inquire. It's more like the inquiry process will often than not include someone else, regardless if they're voluntary or not. And yeah, I think there's more or less for that. And the second part about I think qualities that's required is non-judgments. I think that's the most important amongst the searchers, so that it's actually safe to actually explore on things or inquire on things that we may not necessarily feel comfortable or safe to inquire within ourselves. Thanks.
Thank you. I will not comment too much, but I did hear about how even if we are by ourselves, we're actually not really alone. Our thought forms that arise in our own search is also in relationship with other. And then the second part, though, there is still some merits to being together to inquire for safety purposes, to caution against, I guess, the kind of dangers that Dr. Ravi was speaking about. Leota, please.
Now, if I speak, I lie. But if I stay silent, I'm a coward. So I have to say something. So I think that's just a quote from Ramana Maharshi. There are no others. So even if we inquire alone or we inquire with a group, it's all oneness. We're all connected to each other. So I think it's pretty much the same as what Francis said. And then the qualities that we need for a group of spiritual searchers is that I do agree with Francis, no judgment, safe space, and then, well, maybe have enough suffering so they can join the group. Suffer enough to be here, I think.
Yes. Thank you, Leota. May it not be a journey of suffering, though, I hope. Mary Kay, please.
Yes, I can see where it might be true. Yes. Is it necessary to have fellow searchers on this path? Or can one be completely alone? I think you need both. In order to get fellow searchers, you need to start searching, become a searcher on yourself, and then you can have fellow searchers. Otherwise, if you're not searching, you're just a group of people together, but you don't have a common aim. So you must have the aim, and then you can have it around. One thing, I think the perfect qualities and condition is like everybody is searching. They don't have to search the same way, the same thing, but they must have this searching quality in all of them. And whatever they find, they can add to it. And it was Blavatsky who says one time that if we learn together in a group, then the benefit that comes out is 10 times greater than if you would study alone. Because if I study alone, I add only my own thoughts to that what I'm studying. But if I'm studying with others, they can have their what they come to know, and not only in this life. Maybe there's some seeds or some knowledges from the previous life. A lot of experience that comes from, why it's good to go to university. I can learn these things on my own, but if I learn my own, I need to, let's say, read 100 books, but this person who is a professor have maybe already read them, and he points out the few ones you really need to get the quicker there. So if I go there in a group or with experienced people and learn, then I will get there faster. I don't say that I got the final answer, but whatever is more important comes. So in that sense, I feel it is important to have a group, but the group does. You also had to need add something to the group. In that sense, you need to learn yourself. It's good if you come and you have prepared. That you have something to offer. It's nice if you if you for the next speak you will give up the quote and we can maybe think, or you said we have some something, so everybody can think something and then we can come together and add it, because maybe I come and I don't have something to say right away, but if I take time to think, I think we will find it. But I definitely feel that both are important. That first you must be a seeker yourself, and then you gather around you other seekers, and then you will go on. And of course, if you want something to know, then start teaching it.
Absolutely. Yes, of course, it's a trick question. Of course, both are required. But I appreciate, Mary Kay, what you were saying, actually, in a more, being in a group allows us to have a shortcut, an accelerated path, because we can draw upon the wisdom of just the participants in the group. And so that's really helpful. But at the same time, everyone needs to have that searching quality, exactly like what you say. No point just being there to be a passive listener. Everyone also needs to practice as well. So that's a helpful reminder. I see that we are already past 1.5 hours. I do want to go to the suggested exercise, because I do want to invite you all to do that, and so that at least there's something to be done and we're not just practicing for 1.5 hours a month. So this is something from Dr. Ravi. So the exercise is: as impartially and clearly as you can manage, look at yourself as you manifested in the last 24 hours. Was there an occasion where you saw someone with love and compassion, or with a willingness to learn something? Also, was there any situation in which you asserted yourself or tried to impress someone? So this is really just a reflection of the past 24 hours. At any point in time when if you wish to do this exercise in the last 24 hours, how were you operating, right? And then inquiring how you were moving in this in your own life, and see what is moving within you without being resistant to it, just noticing exactly what you were doing. And so that already is a practice towards self-inquiry. If you do feel moved to do this exercise, I do invite you to send in your responses to me. Or in fact, if you have any general reflections about today's session, please feel free to, drop me an email or a WhatsApp message. My number is in the U Forum group, or if you need my email, it's over there. For this exercise, maybe in the next 2 days, so that I don't wait on forever. But if, of course, along the way, even beyond 2 days, if you'd like to do so, drop any reflections, please let me know. Like, for example, for today's session, we only could touch on 3 themes. I actually had more than 3 things to say, but it's always difficult to try to cut down to what is really essential. And so there's a lot more to speak of, and I really appreciate all of your participation today already and all of the insights you've had. In fact, I've been taking them down because I find that it's helpful. I don't know if the board might want me to summarize it. If they do, let me know, then I can summarize some of the reflections that we had from today. and post it so that it's a way for us to get feedback and also for us to follow up after that. Yes, Leota.
Well, I think that you are more than ready to have a young school of wisdom. You can run the whole school of wisdom for yourself, definitely for 10 days.
No, I will not. That like I said, I'm at the bottom of Mount Everest. So, like you, I'm actually, in a way, this session is also a self-centered desire for me to already begin this inquiry with all of you. We were talking about being in the company of fellow searchers. I already feel very grateful to have your companionship along as we go through this journey and this series together. So, we've given the shortage of time. I thank you all very much for coming to today's session as well as your participation. It was so much more than what I anticipated, and I really thank you all. I did see just briefly that there were many comments also on the chat. I apologize that I could not get through all of them, but I am looking at them and I will also follow up with those as well. So thank you all very much. Yeah, and I guess for now the session's formally over. If anyone wants to just chat after that, we are free to do so. All right, I'll stop sharing now.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Jaryl.
Thank you, Jaryl.
I think
Thank
you
you.
are too
Wonderful.
humble.
Thanks, Jaryl.
At the foot
Thanks,
of the
everyone.
mountain. But the thing is, you
It's
think that there are resorts, beautiful hotels at the top of the mountains, but there are also very nice resorts and hotels at the foot of the mountain. So you want to do it, the young school of wisdom, it is also going to be 5 stars, regardless of where it is.
You see, the trouble with 5-star resorts at the bottom of the summit is we might not feel moved to then climb the mountain. So we'll become too comfortable in our
It's a,
living
if
as
it
well.
is if it is a 5-star, you have the cable car.
Yes, it's too comfortable. So we cannot be too comfortable, and that's why in a way suffering is also our teacher for us to keep continuing up the mountain. Can I ask a technical question? So the chat, there were many comments. How do I extract them? I don't know how.
So I can tell you, I recorded, and I think I can
Yeah, there's a notepad, there's a
get
text
the
file.
text file. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a text file.
So I can send you the text file.
The board can send it to you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And yeah, I don't know whether as a follow-up, for the suggested exercise and people's reflections from today, do we want them posted or you think no?
Of course. I just wanted to say it. You should post it in you can use for post at least the last slide.
Yeah.
The reflection and maybe yeah.
I think that could spark conversations as well, and even for people that didn't join.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Maybe I'll send to, or do I just post directly or send to one of you, then you'll post?
You just post up. Yeah.
Okay. All right, wonderful. Always
Wow.
over.
That's okay. That's good. That's good.
Good times pass fast.
Yes.
That's right. I didn't realize 90 minutes already.
Yeah.
Yeah, it went so quickly.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm really sleepy now. It's nearly 12 o'clock here.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jaryl.
Arigatou gozaimasu. Sayonara.
Yeah.
Kamsahamnida.
Good night.
Hey, night.
Beautiful dreams.
Yeah, you too.
Bye-bye, everyone. Take care.
Bye. Take care, Kiran.
Kiran, hope to see you soon here and at least in Northern, if not here.
Northern, most likely, if not in India. Northern is just a couple of months away, right? So, yeah, that's more likely, I suppose.
All right. I'll see
Okay.
you. I'm going
So
as
I
well.
hope to see you all there. Yeah.
Yes, I hope you.
Yeah, and enjoy the summers of India, Mary Kay, yourself.
Oh, I reached in summer. I reached like I came to Delhi in 20th of June. So I was like melting, but
Oh, wow.
now every day I'm thinking this is not too bad. I can still be.
Nowadays, she spicy stuff that even we find spicy, and she's like, "Oh, this is okay. It's not bad."
Yeah,
She's
it's probably
evolving.
her.
Let's be careful. She's
Yeah,
evolving.
it's her previous incarnation coming to the fore. Yeah. Cool. Well, see you all very soon, Marike. Have the best of your time in India. I see you're in a very good shape overall.
Thank
So
you.
so that seems it
With
seems
good
like you
food.
are indeed having a rewarding experience there.
Oh
I
yes.
hope Smita isn't bothering you a lot.
With love. With love. She's sending her best. And Kiran, I showed your video, a young Indian lady, and she was very much thought that you look like this other famous Indian actor who's like old right now, like in his
Shah
20s,
Rukh Khan.
60s, 60s, and he was very much wanted to meet you.
Oh, I see. Well, you are more than free to share my contacts with him, her,
Oh,
whatever that is.
thank you. Thank you. I will. Yes, I will. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Okay,
Cool.
I'm still recording it, so I have to cut it out.
Oh no, you have to clip this part out.
You do, guys.
Especially
Do it. Wait,
especially the part where you pull Smita with one hand on the camera. So let's not demonstrate your strength to the whole world. Let's keep it,
Oh,
private.
one time I even pulled Vignesh.
Yeah.
Really?
She
Wow.
was sitting on a chair. She dragged me across the room.
I hope she was. I hope she was holding the chair and not your leg. would look very sad otherwise.
Yeah, everyone in the room was shocked. There was pin drop silence.
Yeah, well, she's a powerful Estonian lady, so you better be careful, guys.
The thing is, Indian food is just very powerful, and yeah, I don't know what to do with this extra energy. But okay, I will try to channel it to teachings.
Yeah, that's more, a good way of making use of it.
Okay, I really hope to see. I will message you about this mini talk. It's 13th of April, next Sunday, not like next month, one of the Sundays, and we are having like 10-15 minutes speech about what inspires you in Theosophy, and after you there will be 2 other speakers, if this time. And we already have like 2 sessions and after each one is giving their mini talk, we are having like a discussion or like a comments and questions.
Cool. Sure. Yeah, we can do that. We'll be in touch then. Okay. Take care of yourself, Mary Kay.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah, all the best wishes to you, and see you very soon. Yeah.